All right, team, welcome back to After Hours. We're going to have a great show today because we have a lot of great topics. If you are an XRP bull, this is the show for you because we are going to be debunking some things that are not true. We're going to be discussing SEC v. Ripple today. We haven't discussed it in a while. Because do we have bad news for Ripple here? The SEC appealing a ruling in the case against Ripple Labs, so we're going to discuss that. We're going to get a little recap from Matt here. What led us up to this point, and what does this new news tell us? We're also going to get some initial thoughts from our boy, attorney Jeremy Hogan, and as I said at the beginning, some bullish news for XRP. Make sure you stay until the end, team, and leave a like. But before we get into this content today, Matt, because it's going to be great content today, as it always is, I got to tell you guys need to become a member. You guys need to join our platform. Crypto Charge is where we are from. So click the pin link down below. It will take you to our website. Use code YouTube when signing up because we are a crypto education platform, okay? You're trying to buy crypto. You're trying to get rich, but you have absolutely no idea. You don't know where to go for that, all right? Maddie, tell them about what Crypto Charge will do for them.
Yeah, so we've spent several years now. We're coming up on 3 years now live with our program over Crypto Charge. And it's actually this month will be 3 years. So first of all, very, very grateful. And I appreciate our existing audience out there who have supported us and also helped shape our program. And to that effect, we've really dialed in what I think are the most actionable things to help people like you guys get involved. So we're doing live updates Monday through Friday. We're not just talking about crypto. We're talking about the charts. We're talking about the macro. We're talking about the fundamentals of projects. We're talking about any important news for you guys there. We got the Discord community where you guys can ask questions. We give you good time-sensitive updates. We also have the coin library. So a lot of you guys are like, hey, I need an exit plan, right? Like I need to have a full plan, right? Not just, where do I want to sell? Like, how do I get in? Where do we want to potentially scale out? I need a strategy on how to execute all that. We have so much educational information on the website for you guys. So at $50 a month using code YouTube, I really don't think there's anything else out there like what we have with the amount of value that we have for you guys out there. So again, code YouTube gets you 50% off plus a 30-day free trial. So that's a whole month for you guys to check out the live streams, the Discord, the coin library. And if after all that you're like, hey, it's not for me, you're not going to hurt my feelings, shoot me an email, we'll get you guys squared away. But want to make sure you guys at least have that full month to really check us out, kind of get our vibe and kind of understand what we're all about.
I love that, Maddie. Great breakdown there. Team, if you're not going to become a Crypto Charge member, you're going to have to stay poor, okay? If you want to get rich, if you want to get... No, we don't guarantee profits here, team, but we are going to show you the way and the path because a lot of you are buying crypto right now, but you guys may not see the goal. Like your goal in your mind is like, oh, a stacked bank account, right? Full of zeros. But it's like, how do you get to that point, right? Because for some of you, and for some of you that are older, this whole crypto thing for you guys is a little bit more difficult than you think. If you're young, tech savvy, very easy. But for you older folk, because we do have older folk in the community here, it may be a little bit more difficult for you, and that's what we're here for. So team, do that, pin link down below. Matt, let's get into the news for today. A lot about XRP. And just kind of like refresher here, team, XRP is kind of like our Bitcoin. XRP, the pick in our portfolio, is a pretty big pick. It's highly allocated in my portfolio, and it is for Maddie here too. And it's very important we cover these things because XRP, Ripple was sued, not XRP, but the company Ripple Labs was sued by the SEC for selling unregistered securities. And this has affected the XRP community. I remember some of my friends telling me, before even I got into crypto, they heard this suit and they sold their XRP. They were deadly afraid, right? And so now after all of this time, I think if you're a Crypto Charge member, you remember the infamous show last year where Maddie literally cried on the show. It was July of last year where XRP was declared a non-security. That was a very monumental moment. But why does this matter for us? All right, so Matt, I really want you to recap here for people that don't have our background and knowledge of XRP. Give them a little recap of what led us up to this point so we can kind of, give context for today on the SEC and their appeal.
Sure. So if you guys have not been members with us, you definitely missed a lot of really in-depth, analysis of all the legal documents and the briefs as they're coming out through this entire court case. The SEC in 2020 launched a lawsuit against the company Ripple for selling unregistered securities and naming XRP as that unregistered security in such brief. This was actually by Jay Clayton on his last day as SEC chair, and then he dipped to go work at an Ethereum fund. But I digress. Let's not get too deep into the weeds here. Gary Gensler, of course, continues with that rampage and the crusade against crypto and against Ripple and It's a very, very lengthy battle. But through all of this, through all this briefing, we got so much clarity actually from these judges. And a lot of people were very frustrated during this time because they go, it's not happening fast enough. We're going to miss the bull run. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And XRP will be a security and all these different things. But guys, the legal process is long and it's slow. And the wheels of justice move slowly, but they generally get it right, especially when things are not rushed. So what we got out of this and out of this entire case is a ruling that suggested that XRP within itself is not a security. So what we're looking at now is a lot of people are saying, with this appeal, and they go, well, the SEC is appealing it. Damn it, they're going to get delisted off U.S. exchanges. No, guys. You have to understand what part of the ruling that they are appealing. So just like if you're in a criminal case, right? Like there can be multiple counts or multiple parts to a criminal case. You can appeal a part of a ruling, right? And you can still, change part of the outcome, and it doesn't change other parts of the ruling if you don't have the tools to be able to actually appeal that part. So this is not about appealing the status of XRP within itself as a non-security. XRP right now is the only digital asset with legal clarity as a non-security, although we have a very good feeling that Ethereum and Bitcoin will also be labeled non-securities, sometime in the near future. But in writing in a court document, that is the only context in which we have that exact example. So this is more about pragmatic sales as well as institutional sales. And it's really going to come down to money, right? I think that it's more about how much money do they really want to try to disgorge from Ripple, and make sure that they feel a little bit better about it, and can put a little gold star on the SEC suit there, make them feel better about it. So again, a lot of you guys already panicked, and I hate to see you guys panicking, go, I'm going to dump it, I'm out of XRP. Guys, we already did the hard part, right? Like the part that we care about as XRP holders is done. You're not a Ripple holder, right? You guys are not shareholders in Ripple. You're XRP holders, right? And I want you guys to understand that difference. Very, very different parts of this. So yes, of course, we want Ripple to be as successful as possible. We want them to pay as little as possible. Fuck the SEC. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it doesn't affect you as a person because you're not an institutional investor and you're not the company Ripple and you're not a shareholder in Ripple. So you should not be worried, and you can take big deep breaths and feel confident that we're going to see some really good prices for XRP through this next bull cycle.
I like that, Maddie. You recapped that very well. And Maddie was covering this throughout the whole time this case was going on the website. And Maddie, I have a question for you because Brad Garlinghouse, Stuart Alderati, Fred Respioli, sorry, I always botch his name, and then Jeremy Hogan here have all made a consensus that this was embarrassing for the SEC, right? And so now with this appeal, it seems like the SEC just wants to get more money out of Ripple Labs, right? So why is this whole case so embarrassing for the SEC? That's like the big question here.
So the SEC, when they generally come in and sue somebody, most companies and most organizations, regardless of who they are, don't have the money to make it all the way through a suit. Most of them are going to get bled out. They know that. The SEC is a government-funded agency, and they just continuously get more funding. They use disgorgements that they get from other companies to fund their agency, which is also very, very disgusting. That money should go back to victims, and if there really is a ruling that they've acted in an incorrect manner or they've been a bad actor, but really it comes down to just trying to make an example out of Ripple. They just want everyone else out there to see what's happening in Ripple and go, hey, don't even try it, because if you do, we're going to make this very, very difficult for you. Ripple was in a very, very strong spot, though, having $1 billion in cash they were sitting on, being able to still advance things in other markets outside of the United States. And because of that, they were very well armed. But in this particular example, Ripple is probably one of the few examples that we'll see in the future of being able to fight this all the way through and get a lot of legal clarity throughout this case. Whereas you look at other companies, for example, the library case, they just did not have the funding there, right? Like they didn't have the funding for that same level of defense. So unfortunately, you pair that with a judge that doesn't really understand digital assets, you're going to get an unfavorable outcome. Ripple is definitely in a very, very different spot, and I'm grateful that they were able to take it as far as they have and continue to fight. Even now, we saw Brad Garlinghouse quote say, "We will take this as far as it absolutely needs to go," because it's a matter of principle now. It's not just a matter of money.
I don't know if I read this before, but the SEC has filed a notice of appeal of Judge Torres' ruling. So last week, October 2nd, the SEC appealed a ruling in its case against Ripple Labs. The original decision stated that Ripple's XRP sales to retail investors were not considered unregistered securities, though sales to institutions were. Attorney Jeremy Hogan has stated that in a couple weeks, we'll know the issues the SEC is appealing. Ripple's legal team, led by Stuart Alderati, criticized the appeal, accusing the SEC of dragging out the legal battle unnecessarily. Ripple may file a cross appeal to contest the decision regarding institutional sales. I was going to read that before the recap, but we just got into the recap automatically. And Jeremy Hogan here let some initial thoughts go on the SEC appeal on Twitter. And here's like some couple highlights. And then I'm going to ask Maddie a couple questions here because he has covered it in depth. So it's seemingly the SEC wants to strip Ripple for more money. And this is an appeal by right. So they have the right to appeal this. And Jeremy said the SEC is likely to lose. And even if they were to win, it's just a matter of money. And as Maddie said earlier, Ripple's sitting on a bunch of cash. So why does that have any concern to us? And also, too, for XRP holders, why does this matter to us? Because last year in July, XRP by Judge Torres was stated as a non-security. So we got that clarity. So why does this matter to us? It's really if you're a big Ripple fan, if you have Ripple stock, right, Matt?
Right.
So in a couple weeks, we'll know the issues the SEC is appealing. And this, I'm going to read this quote right here. I'm just going to jump into this because I have some questions. Look at this, Matt. This is because, Maddie, we've kind of been covering a lot of politics in relation to crypto, like what the RNC has stance they've taken on crypto, the DNC, their DNC platform of Kamala Harris and Walz, their stance on crypto and kind of how they flip-flopped. We might have touched that a little bit a couple weeks ago, but this is interesting what Jeremy had to say here. He said, the only hope of this all being over soon is if there's new leadership at the SEC. If Trump becomes president again, I will humbly accept the role of director of enforcement and refocus the agency on protecting you from scams, frauds, and thieves. Maddie, so does this presidency actually matter more to us? Well, not to XRP holders, but I guess to big Ripple fans and to, if you hold Ripple stock. Does this matter to those people? Because seemingly here, Jeremy Hogan, look, I'll show you it down here. I know they see this screenshot, but this is the last thing he let off on with, if Trump becomes president again. So is Trump a bigger player here than what we think?
I mean, I think they're all bigger players, in the sense of, just how good of a puppet are you or not. Like we've talked about before, the president doesn't have the power to strip an existing SEC chair out of place. So it would have to be a resignation to which then they can appoint a replacement, right? Similar to how the Supreme Court works. You can't strip someone out of the Supreme Court because, you don't like their political affiliation or how they're acting as a Supreme Court judge. But if there's a vacancy, then you have the right to appoint. I would just really want to reiterate that to you guys. I know that Trump explicitly said that he will fire the SEC chair and then replace, but he does not have the power to do all of that, only part of it if the opportunity presents itself. So what I want everyone to do, regardless of who wins, is to make sure that we hold that person accountable. So I know that everyone's very, very excited about Trump being potentially pro-crypto and, helping things along and the right to mine and self-custody and all these things. But let's make sure that we actually hold them accountable, right? And I say this because in 2016, I was a very, very big fan of Trump. I read a lot about his policy. I thought a lot of it sounded very reasonable. A lot of it sounded very fair. A lot of it sounded really, really excellent in relations to, restoring 2A rights when it comes to, that being a federal right and not just, a state right. But he didn't make any strides on that. He didn't make any progress towards a lot of the campaign promises he did in 2016. So I look at what's happening now, and, now that crypto is a little bit more of a bigger issue for people and it's a lot more present and the market's become a lot bigger and, more participants, of course, he's going to be a little bit more vocal about, something that, Kamala and Biden have not been very helpful with over the last 4 years, right? There's no secret about that. Kamala and Biden have not done anything to help push crypto forward. In fact, Biden overtly swatted something down that was going to be very helpful to crypto about 18 or 20 months ago. So I don't ignore those things, and I hold them highly responsible for that. I just really, really hope that a lot of this isn't lip service from the GOP and from Donald Trump right now, and they're actually going to roll their sleeves up and get some work done to help us make things a little bit better, right? And it doesn't mean that we have to strip the SEC chair to make that happen. We can introduce legislation in Congress that helps regulate and define what control the SEC has over crypto, right? So we can look at one person and say, yeah, it's all Gary Gensler's fault. Yeah, Gary's a piece of shit. But we can also look at Congress and say, what have you done to help minimize the amount of power and control that the SEC has to regulate this industry that we know does not fit strictly into a security or a commodity bucket. So I want you guys to just take that as it comes. You guys should always hold the people, that you elect responsible. And let's see if Donald Trump does win, if he's going to put his money where his mouth is and really get some work done. I would say at least within the first 12 to 18 months, we should have legislation, at least one round of legislation that's going to be pro-crypto, that's going to help, us along here. And if we don't get that, then, maybe we got bamboozled, like a third time now with Donald Trump. We'll see.
Maddie, one question I did want to ask you before we got into that, because that was the first thing I saw, or the last thing I saw in Jeremy Hogan's tweet there. I just thought it was funny because it is kind of on par with what we've been talking about over some previous after-hour shows. But the serious question out of all of this, right, and more important for Ripple in this matter. Is Jeremy Hogan correct in saying the SEC is likely to lose? Because that's what he said in his tweet. They are likely to lose. And even if they were to win, it's just a matter of money.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. The SEC is very likely to lose because what they're trying to appeal right now doesn't make sense with the idea that XRP within itself was a non-security. It is a non-security. So what they're really just trying to argue over and hang their hat on is the institutional side of it. And moreover, I think that any institution who's buying anything, whether they believe they're commodities or not, if you're an institution and you believe that you're receiving an investment contract, you're going to want something in writing to say that you have an investment contract, and you want to know exactly what those post-sale obligations from Ripple that you would be receiving are, right? So no institution stepped up and said, hey, we got really hurt by Ripple, right? Like we got screwed by Ripple with their ODL corridors and they did this to us and they promised this and this and this, and we never got that. That wasn't the issue. The SEC came in claiming that all these people were getting hurt when nobody was getting hurt until the SEC stepped in. So understand that this is really just them trying to nitpick at the one thing that they can technically appeal, but it's a very, very low likeliness when the majority of this case, including, remember, guys, there was a lot of commentary from Judge Torres, when it came to, pushing back on the SEC with them trying to argue very, very opposite views, but even sometimes within the same paragraph. So they're sick and tired of the SEC's bullshit, just like we are. So this is very, very foolish to push the envelope with a judge like this. Judges also don't like to see their decisions overturned. This was, 4 years? Like, 4 years of the court's time, and the SEC was lost on 90% of the issues, and now the SEC wants to eat into more of the court's time. How do you think that these judges are going to approach that, especially when they've been so careful with their decision and really made sure that they heard everything out to make really an educated decision? So, I think that Jeremy Hogan's a great analyst when it comes to the legal stuff. Metal Lawman's also a really great follow for you guys if you guys don't follow him, but I think he's exactly on the money here. If anything, it's going to be a little bit more, a little cashola to make this go away, or the SEC just takes a fat up L. Either way, it's not a good look for the SEC because they have overtly wasted taxpayer time and money, and they have directly hurt investors like you and me by launching this lawsuit, right? Like we didn't need protection for the SEC. XRP would probably be worth $14 or $15 right now if that wasn't the case. So, it's at the end of the day, I think that an overt picture has been painted of the damage that the SEC has caused, and that's not just to us as investors, but also to the judges and everyone else in the legal system.
Clap it up for the SEC. Clap it up for Gary Gensler. You know what's funny, Matt, is, you see the FTX payouts coming within the next couple of months for people to get like 10 to 15% of their crypto back that they had on FTX. And you know who was meeting with SBF? Gary Gensler. So it's like, who are these people protecting here? I just love what you were saying with the protection of the SEC and how they're fraudulent and have failed in many aspects. And FTX is one of them. And it's just so hilarious how we could go through and through with SEC v Ripple here, and then look at something like FTX as what were you guys doing with that? How are you guys protecting investors there? You guys obviously weren't. Right. So just want to throw that out here. Let's get to some bullish news if we still have time. Right. Bitwise files SEC paperwork to launch spot XRP ETF. Let's go. The filing marks the first step towards creating an XRP ETF, but SEC Chair Gary Gensler has not indicated support for crypto ETFs beyond Bitcoin and Ether. Bitwise CEO Hunter Horsley emphasized their belief in blockchains as drivers of new monetary assets and applications, continuing their work to provide investors access to the crypto space through traditional brokerage account. Maddie, based?
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this, and I think it's the first of many. I think that the SEC is obviously going to continue to say negative things about, the future of XRP ETFs, especially when they have this final piece of pending litigation with Ripple right now. So, when that's all said and done, maybe we'll, just be forced at that point to, get the flurry of them in, especially when you can show that an XRP ETF is going to have the exact same protections that a Bitcoin or an Ethereum ETF would have, right? There's really nothing special you have to do other than show that you can be a proper custodian and then have a surveillance partner and all these different things to, that are required with any sort of ETF offering. But I think it's just a matter of time. So very, very bullish. Love to see it. I think that it's also going to be, again, a great way for the older set of investors who don't want to have self-custody. They don't want to do individual purchasing. They just want to add things to their standard brokerage accounts. It is going to bring more long-term volume into this marketplace, especially when you start to look at these ETFs being bundles and baskets, right? And you can have payment ETFs that are crypto-focused and Oracle ones and a variety of other, subsectors. It really is going to take the market cap to probably somewhere like a 15 to 20 trillion dollar market cap, and that's going to be one of the bigger indicators long term of that. So I'm very excited to see it. I'm very excited to see potentially some more other altcoins that are have been around long enough that are showing that they haven't had issues so much with from a regulatory standpoint. I think we'll probably get some more of those coming here as well, and it's just going to legitimize the space more, right? Like when your Nan logs on to her investment account, she sees even 5 or 6 different crypto assets to pick from. Maybe she doesn't understand what it is, but it starts to warm them up to the idea that there's legitimacy behind it, and these aren't just little numbers on their screen that are hopefully don't go to zero. So I think that overall it's very net positive, and it makes me very bullish from a fundamental perspective, over decades, not just for this year and next year.
In other bullish news, Canary launched their first HBAR trust. This is the first HBAR trust in the U.S. And then me and Matt were kind of discussing about this XRP ETF because this was reported by Eleanor Tourette, and she got like 250,000 views on X of her finding this within the depths of some website. And I saw Kevin Cage was the other one to speak about it. But I don't really know the validity of this because I couldn't find any other news sources reporting this, and Maddie also scoured the internet and found one article. And then we were discussing just about Eleanor Tourette because she is the one bringing this to the table here. And I was like, Maddie, didn't you drag this girl last year for falsely reporting some XRP news? And he was like, yeah, that does sound familiar. And so we talked about it. Maddie, just share about the context of this and maybe why we shouldn't trust Eleanor Tourette.
It actually all came rushing back to me as I was mid-research looking through this and trying to find additional sources and trying to dig a little bit on Steve McClurg and also Canary Capital to try to find some information about this. And there wasn't anything on his Twitter, and there also wasn't anything on the Canary Capital Twitter that he has backlinks from his own personal page there. So I made sure to use that link and not to look for other ones. I think he's maybe tweeted 3 things, nothing about the XRP ETF. The last time that we had this type of reporting from Eleanor Tourette, I think it was actually an alleged BlackRock filing for an XRP ETF through this exact same website. What I do want you to remind you guys of is it costs about $500 to file this, and anyone can file it. You can file it, and it can be garbage, right? The same as if you go to file a court case, and even if it doesn't meet all the standards to actually have strong enough pleadings to become a case, you can still make a filing, right? So that's really what it comes down to. So would I love to see this? Yes. Is there really a whole lot of evidence of this other than maybe just this filing? Nothing on the Twitters, nothing other than a couple obscure websites. If even Cointelegraph and some of the other big ones would have picked up something like this 100%, if there was a little bit more, a little bit more information behind it. So let's not jump up and down about it just yet. I'm the Bitwise very much, confirmed. That's everywhere. It's highly confirmable. But I do want to remind you guys that it's very, very easy for someone to file something like this that doesn't actually have any intention of custodying XRP and creating an ETF. And Eleanor, did have to scoop back on that because she wanted to be first on it, but she didn't verify any of her sources. So understand that some of these reporters don't really care about being the most legitimate news source. They want to be the biggest and the fastest news source. And for me, that's not good enough. So I don't want to sit here and trash Eleanor again. I don't think that she deserves to be trashed on this because she did tweet something that you can go verify, at least from a filing standpoint. But I think that she tried to make it seem a lot bigger than it actually is.
Love that, Maddie. Watch out for that Eleanor Tourette. You might get some bad info from her. If you want real info, you got to go crypto charge, all right? That's where you get. We only quote, people that know their shit, like Jeremy Hogan, everyone that I mentioned at the top of the show that know their shit as it relates to XRP. That's all I've really gone for any information. And I know Maddie always brings it to the table. Maddie's always scouring the internet, looking for information. So that's where I get my XRP information from. So watch out for her. But team, that's all. We're really out of time today. If you watch to the end, make sure you like. I think you got a lot of value today. You got that recap on SEC v Ripple for some of you that are new. I know some of you are new and are thinking about finally buying XRP. I don't know where you've been, but now that, if you go online and go onto YouTube and X, like the language on there, the rhetoric is like through the roof about XRP right now for the last couple months. And people are all excited to talk about XRP. Team, if you want to learn more about XRP, you need to join the platform to learn more about that because you are missing out because XRP is still a giant part of my portfolio. I know it is still part of Matt's here, and I think that's going to be a real winner this bull run because of that suppression we saw like Maddie described earlier in the show. So big money coming to my exchanges and directly in my bank account so I can buy a ton of real estate and buy more crypto next bear market. So I'm very excited for that, team. You should be too. If you let's see. No, let's not get into that. We don't have enough time. Team, thank you. Yeah, I was just like about to go off on something else. Team, if you like the video, make sure you leave a like. And if you have any questions, we have the Ask Maddie show this Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific. So leave your questions down there. If they're good, I will bring it up. Don't leave no lame questions. I've been disliking a lot of your guys' comments and questions. It's been terrible. But team, we will see you guys Wednesday. Bye.